Following up from our first video about adolescence, there appears to be two nefarious underlying messages about adolescence which I think need to be explored further and in more depth. Firstly, there's the continuing vilifying of young white boys that we have seen for years now on an industrial scale. Secondly, there is the sexualization of young children.
I am 6 years old and I do drag.
Asa is a baby drag queen. He performs at drag shows as Lulu Lovely Twirls.
Another thing which I explored in depth in my Rebel News days, which has been going on for years now on a global scale, pushed and funded by those at the very top. So is adolescence fact or is it fiction? The murder closely resembles the murder of a black teen, Eliane Andam, by another black teen called Hassan Sentumu in Croydon in 2023. However, the creators say it isn't based on that, which asks the question, why is it being used as an educational tool? Those who think it should be used are countering those who oppose its use by saying it's a fictional story, so it shouldn't be taken seriously. However, if it shouldn't be taken seriously, why is one side claiming all boys need to watch this so they don't become murdering incels? Those opposing its use in schools are saying it is inaccurate and that the show is based on incorrect input variables such as whitewashing, and which demographic is also being negatively impacted the most by social media. However, those who are for it being used in schools as an educational tool say it is fictional, in which case why would we be teaching children based off a fictional drama? Yet to counter the fiction argument again, why does the Prime Minister refer to it as a documentary if it is supposedly fictional?
Work together, and what can we do as a society to stop and prevent young boys being dragged into this whirlpool of hatred and misogyny? And it is young boys predominantly in this particular instance. But also, how can we protect young girls that are at risk? Because obviously that's a very strong feature of the documentary.
So with that in mind, why should adolescence not be used as an educational tool? Because it is both inappropriate and an inaccurate portrayal of issues facing the country and young people today. Yes, there is a growing knife crime issue. No, the main problem is not young white boys. Fortunately, the government is taking steps to solve this by banning ninja swords, and hopefully in the near future they will make murder illegal. As pointed out in the previous video, if you haven't seen it, in 2022 the London Assembly addressed the growing issue of knife crime. Despite making up only 13% of London's total population, black Londoners actually account for 45% of London's knife murder victims, 61% of knife murder perpetrators, and 53% of knife crime perpetrators. So why are young black men killing each other with knives? Not only that, it opens up young children to a world of sexualization. The main premise is that this young 13-year-old boy killed because he is an incel, an involuntary celibate. With some media outlets, such as LBC, referring to it as the incel drama. Not only that, the show makes out as though it is a problem that he is an incel, which at 13 is exactly what he should be, as he is a child, and children that young should be celibate. Anyone saying otherwise is clearly a danger to children. But it gets worse. The legal age of sexual consent in the UK is 16, yet we have a government, specifically the Prime Minister, who has seen the entire show, having said, "As a father watching this show with my teenage son and daughter, I can tell you it hit home hard."
At home, we are watching Adolescence with our children. I've got a 16-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl, and it's a very, very good documentary to watch, or drama. This violence carried out by young men, influenced by what they see online, is a real problem. It's abhorrent, and we have to tackle it. We are putting in specialist rape and sexual offences teams in every police force doing work on the 999 calls, but this is also a matter of culture that I think it's important that across the whole house we tackle this emerging and growing.
Pushing the idea that this fictional grooming series should be used to educate secondary school children, which can be as young as 11. So given that the PM knows how inappropriately sexual this show is, for children specifically, particularly this scene with children as young as 11 being opened up to those sexual ideas because of the Prime Minister, what responsibility does he have when it comes to exposing children to sordid behaviour? Surely this thing is a simple one-off and a misunderstanding. Unfortunately not. When working at Rebel News, I found far too many instances and evidence where the state education system is sexualising young children and warping their minds, such as these sexual games that they can play in the classroom, like the dice game, where children discuss in a classroom what sexual things they can do with certain body parts. So who is most affected by social media? Adolescence makes out like the biggest negative social media impact is on boys, and that they then become a threat to women. However, the evidence suggests the biggest negative impact by social media is on girls. In a study published in Nature Communications by Oxford University, UK data shows girls experience a negative link between social media use and life satisfaction when they are 11 to 13 years old, and boys when they are 14 to 15 years old. So you could argue, given the much younger age in which social media affects girls, that if anything was to be made to highlight the issues faced with social media interfering children, it should be focused on girls. So who created Adolescence, and why is it being pushed by the political elite? Created by Warp Films and being given vast amounts of PR by the charity Tender UK, who have both received large amounts of government funding, and being streamed by Netflix, whose largest shareholders are BlackRock with 7.1% of shares and Vanguard with 8.33% of shares. Adolescence, you could argue, is state-sponsored propaganda, given their strong desires to use it in schools to shape the minds of the young. The issue with many isn't just that the government are creating their own issues in which to try and save us from, but also who they are using. Go back 5 years and Netflix is under fire for their new French film Cuties, where very, very young girls are being sexualised and groomed for a global audience on Netflix, and the vast majority of society called it out for what it was: degeneracy and paedophilia. So in the present day, why are we trusting a Netflix show to help educate and raise our children? If you like this sort of content and you find it eye-opening and you learn things that you've never known before, then please do hit the like, share and subscribe buttons on all the platforms of which you can find Vox Populi, and please do stay up to date with our current content, as the more you watch it, the more we will make. I've been Callum Smiles of Vox Populi, with a cold, as you can probably hear. See you next time. But it doesn't end there. It appears that not enough young white boys have been made to feel terrible about themselves, or just young people in general have been brainwashed enough that it looks as though they are now making an Adolescence 2. The question is, how much public money is going to be spent on it? How influential is it going to be on the UK curriculums? And what crime are they going to whitewash this time? Just how bad are they going to make young white boys look?